Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stand. I'm joined by Fabrizio Romano for the latest transfer news. Happy New Year, Fabrizio. Hope you're doing well.
Happy New Year to you, my friend. Happy New Year to all Manchester United fans. And yes, doing well, ready for this January transfer window.
Yeah, it's up and running now. I want to talk to you about a few things, but just first of all, we saw David Ornstein, I think it was last week, saying that the announcement of United's sale is expected any time. I think this is a weird one. It's such a big scoop for whoever gets that. What's the latest you're hearing about that? Do you think it is imminent, or United fans? This is probably the biggest thing we're looking for in 2023.
Yes, and I understand that. Honestly, I understand that because it will be a big revolution. About the timing, honestly, you remember it was December, and we said here that there were already some conversations ongoing with some groups. So at the moment, of course, they don't want to state anything in public, but I'm still told that there are already conversations ongoing. So I can't be precise about the timing because honestly, it depends on the club, on the new group, and all the conversations. It's about the lawyers, so it's a really important process. But conversations are ongoing. It's not just that Manchester United is for sale and time to wait. Conversations are ongoing. This is for sure. Then we have to wait a bit. We have to see what's next. But the expectation is for Man United to have enough time to plan for the summer transfer window with the new owners, of course, but also with probably new additions to the board to plan together with Erik ten Hag. I expect Erik ten Hag to be 100% in charge next summer, even if with new owners. And so the plan is to go with the next summer window with new owners and with new Manchester United structure rebuilt.
That would be fantastic. Let's wait and see what happens with that. January transfer window. We only spoke last week, and I think it was literally within hours that he'd gone to Liverpool with Cody Gakpo. We're now talking João Felix. The latest is that this the fee is the issue. But what's the latest on João Felix? Because the frustration from United fans is that we need Ronaldo left 2 months ago. We need a forward now. Are we going to see all of January where United are just like, maybe we go for that, maybe we don't, and then we end up getting a Garlo type signing at the end of the month?
Yes, and honestly, the feeling is that they will go for something cheap for an opportunity because they had Cody Gakpo in their hands on player side, and they decided never to submit any official bid to PSV Eindhoven. So between Man United and PSV Eindhoven, there was no direct communication. It was only on player side with the player keen on the move. But then at the end, they never submitted any official proposal. They never had kind of negotiation with PSV Eindhoven. So the expectation is for Man United to go for kind of cheap option or opportunity. João Felix is probably the best opportunity on the market right now. Fantastic player, fantastic talent available on the market. The problem is the price. But the feeling of people close to the player and close to the agents is that all these clubs, Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea also had some conversations, but Chelsea are now focusing on different things. I don't see them pushing for João Felix. So Arsenal and Man United are waiting to see how the situation could change in the next days, because Atletico Madrid 1 month ago, after the first conversations with the agent of the player, Jorge Mendes, they told him only 100 million euros, more than 100 million euros, add-ons included, or nothing. And now it's already a potential loan deal with a big loan fee, with the coverage, the full coverage of the salary for the second part of the season. So now the package João Felix would cost around 18, 19 million euros for 6 months, 5-6 months, with no guarantee to keep the player in the summer. So this is why it's a huge one, and this is why Man United, Arsenal are thinking about that. They had conversations with Jorge Mendes. New contacts are expected this week between Mendes and the clubs, also with Man United, to see how the situation can change, how they can tempt Atletico Madrid. But at the moment, it's not yet at an advanced stage because of the price. So the feeling is to understand if Man United will decide to invest these 18, 19 millions, could become 15, 16, maybe in the next weeks, or if they will go for different kind of option. For example, I think another big opportunity on the market is Youssoufa Moukoko, who is a talented striker, is a very good player, potentially available in January because at the moment he has no agreement with Borussia Dortmund. English clubs are asking about him. I would not be surprised if Man United decide to go for something like that. I think it would be really smart. At the moment, this is not the case because there are no negotiations, but he's one of the players they're following. And so I think these are the opportunities: João Felix, Moukoko, or experienced center striker, and so traditional number 9 who could be on the market in the final weeks of the window.
I want to come back to Moukoko, but just on that, Memphis was a player that we heard about 8-9 days ago was going to make his future known. Obviously, it's still not known. What do you feel with Memphis? Because he's out of contract in the summer, isn't he? So loan, yes. He'd probably be looking for something more than a loan. Any idea what he's looking to do?
What I'm told is that Memphis if a top club will arrive and say, okay, we trust you, we want you, Memphis would be open to join. So it's also for Man United, of course. So I think for Memphis would be no problem to join Man United or any other club. But it's important to understand what kind of project they have for him, because as you mentioned, he's out of contract in the summer and he doesn't want to sign like long-term contracts and then maybe he's again a sub in this club in the future. So for him, it's really important to understand what's the project. At the moment with Manchester United, what I'm told is that they had some conversations. It was end of November, right after the Cristiano Ronaldo situation, beginning of December, some conversation as they had also in the summer, because Memphis has always been a player appreciated by Ten Hag. He knows him so well, he's Dutch, and so the connection is very clear. But at some point, at the moment, it's not a direct negotiation or anything advanced. I think it's kind of opportunity also. Could be an opportunity. But Memphis is already a backup at Barcelona. And so for him, it's important to have some guarantees for present and future. Otherwise, for him, it makes sense to stay at Barcelona 6 months and leave on a free in the summer and pick his favorite club.
On Moukoko, it's interesting you mentioned him, because obviously we are now in January and he can technically speak to players outside of the Bundesliga. I actually thought he might have signed a contract with Dortmund by now. Do you think now that scenario is there, that he can legally talk to Man United or PSG or whoever? Do you think that means he's going to go? Because he is now in that position to do that. You would have expected Dortmund would have had him on a contract, so he can't do that.
I think that from what I'm told, every single day, the expectation of Borussia Dortmund is for Moukoko to leave. Is for Moukoko to leave because they offered him a new deal. He didn't accept. The player was really upset with some reports in Germany of a deal turned down for 6 million per season. This is not true. What he received is a proposal around 3 million per season with some add-ons, which is completely different. And this is why Moukoko was a bit annoyed with those stories. And so the feeling is that in January, something could happen if some top club will arrive and offer him an important contract and an important project for the future. Otherwise, he could leave on a free. For example, we had a lot of rumors about Barcelona, and it's true that Barcelona appreciate Moukoko. They would love to sign Moukoko on a free as a backup for Robert Lewandowski and to grow up for the future, but only in the summer. Barcelona will not move for Moukoko in January, and this is a big opportunity for the English clubs. I say English clubs because it's not only Manchester United. There are many. It's true also Chelsea had some conversation, but also other clubs are exploring this possibility. And so I would say Premier League in January or Premier League or Barcelona in the summer. This is the current situation. Because at Borussia Dortmund, they are still pushing to extend the contract. He has a great relationship with the manager, Edin Terzic, but at the moment, the financial proposal is still not what Moukoko expects. So let's see if Borussia Dortmund will try again. But I'm told that in January, it's a possibility for Premier League clubs.
How much do you think that would be? Because I instantly think we couldn't afford Gakpo with 6 months left on his contract. Moukoko, what do you think Dortmund would take over nothing, I suppose, in the summer?
Good question. I think would be around 50 million, something like that. This is just my opinion, because at the moment Borussia Dortmund are still stating that they want to extend the contract, they want to push, and they want to keep the player. But I think it will be around 15, 18 million for Moukoko in January, no more than this, because as we mentioned, if he doesn't extend the contract, it will be free to sign in any moment.
Which would be the same as what the João Felix deal is, but you don't get a player in the summer.
Exactly.
Interesting. Just on Felix, very quickly, where do you think he would rather go, Manchester United or Arsenal? Is there anything from Mendes, or are they happy for
No, honestly, I never received this kind of indication, because the only thing is that he dreams of Premier League. So when we had rumors about Paris Saint-Germain, the message was he wants to go to the Premier League. With PSG at the moment, there are no negotiations. PSG are not going to act for any striker, and so this is why Premier League is his biggest dream. I think it would be pretty open to join Arsenal or Man United. Of course, Arsenal now are in a position in the Premier League which is really attracting, but also Manchester United on the contract side, on the project side, the manager. So I'm sure it's not about the club, it's that he wants to join Premier League, and also important for the player to see the club convinced about João Felix, because remember that João Felix is leaving Atletico Madrid not because he has some problem with the club, because he loves the club, he loves the fans, he loves the city. The problem is with the manager because he's not playing. So he wants to play. And for him, it's important to feel this kind of project around him, that he will be a starter, that he will play a lot and not just be a player for rotation. This is really important for João Felix.
Moving on to the midfield, just very, very quickly, I want to talk about Frankie De Jong, but Enzo Fernandez, we spoke last week. It looks like Chelsea are going to pull off a very aggressive deal. Do you think that Enzo Fernandez will now go to Chelsea in the January transfer window?
At the moment, it's really advanced. It's not done because it depends on the president, Manuel Rui Costa. He has to decide. He always stated in public and in private, only the release clause, 120 million euros, one solution. But now Chelsea are tempting him because they're almost offering the same kind of fee, but with different payment terms. So let's see what Benfica will decide to do. I think it will be decided this week. So this week is going to be crucial for the Enzo Fernandez and Chelsea deal. About Man United, as we mentioned last week, it's true that Man United have an interest. It's true that Man United appreciate the player. They spoke to people close to the player. But the reality is that Man United are never going to invest 100, 120 million euros on a midfielder now. If they wanted to invest big money, it was on a striker and probably was on Cody Gakpo because was the favorite of the manager. So this is why the expectation is not for Man United to act now for Enzo Fernandez. Then if Benfica will decide to keep the player until the end of the season, to extend his contract and change the salary and then sell Enzo in the summer, that could be an option for Man United to act with new owners and with new ideas, I would mention. But now it's Chelsea pushing for Enzo Fernandez.
And there's been a story this morning. I've seen a few people asking in the chat about it. Frankie De Jong has apparently changed his mind and wants to come to Manchester United. I've got no idea where this is coming from, Fabrizio. It's just a story that people have been talking about today. Is there anything? I mean, I presume Ten Hag would love to bring Frankie De Jong to Manchester United in the summer, but everything I've heard him say is that Barcelona is where he wants to be unless they force him out.
100% the same. I'm sorry. I know that Manchester United fans are following this Frankie dream since a long time, but the reality, I'm told as of today, the player is still focused only on Barcelona. He doesn't want to change, not in January for sure. We have to see in March, in April, what happens. But as of today, he is still focused on Barcelona. And also important to mention that Barcelona now have changed their position. So in the summer, they were 100% prepared to let him go, to save his salary, to receive big money from Man United or Chelsea. Now it's a different situation because Busquets is out of contract, and so the midfield situation at Barcelona is not the same. And they are still keeping an eye on the situation of Frankie as a player they can keep also for the future now. So it's different. It's completely different. Nothing will happen in January at the moment, 100%. And I think in the summer depends on the player. But as of today, I'm told he's not changing his position. Of course, we know Erik ten Hag is a big fan. Man United want to sign Frankie. This is not new. But the reality is that Frankie has not changed his mind as of now.
And on the right back situation, which just leads us on to the last bit where we just talk about people potentially going out the door. We know that there was Crystal Palace, West Ham, Wolves looking at Wan-Bissaka, and United were looking for a right back. He's played some games recently. Do you think that Man United will just say no to loaning Wan-Bissaka now and keep him until the summer?
No, at the moment, I think they won't say no. I think if they receive a good proposal, Man United are still open to discuss and let Wan-Bissaka leave. Then it depends on the opportunities they have on the right back because they are exploring that market. Again, as we mentioned here, I don't expect Man United to go for expensive signings. We said about Dumfries that is too expensive, but also Frimpong is a player they follow. But the expectation of people close to Frimpong is for him to move in the summer, not in January, because first of all, Leverkusen want to keep the player, and then they would ask for 25 million euros, at least 25 million euros, which is too much at the moment for a backup option for Manchester United. So I think he's a player we have to follow, Frimpong, for Man United in the summer, because it's true that Erik ten Hag and people close to him are following Frimpong closely, but at the moment he's not the top priority. So let's see what happens with Wan-Bissaka. The steps we always mention here is priority, extend Diogo Dalot contract as soon as possible. So they want to do it possibly in January, I'm told, as soon as possible. Then second step to find a solution for Wan-Bissaka, and then to potentially sign a new right back and backup option.
And just on Harry Maguire very quickly, not playing for United at the moment. Luke Shaw played fantastically well at left centre-back. He seems to be quite far down the pecking order. He's a starter for England. Is it likely that Harry Maguire will be leaving Manchester United in the summer?
I think in the summer is a serious possibility. He's always been a great professional, and so I'm sure he will speak to the manager. He will be very clear in the next months. Now he will fight for his place in the next months for the second part of the season, and then before the summer transfer window, they will have conversations and they will be very clear. I think Ten Hag has always been clear with the players in general, and same for Harry Maguire with the manager. So I think in the summer they will speak before the summer transfer window. As of now, the message is clear. Harry will fight for his place. He's not thinking about leaving in January. So this is what they say, those close to him. But I'm sure that in the summer, if the situation will remain the same, for Harry Maguire, there will be a chance to leave. Of course, for Man United, it will be almost impossible to have, again, 80 million pounds for Maguire, but they would be open to letting go with different kind of ways. So let's see, but I think it's an open situation for June. Yes.
Well, I'm just about finished, Fabrizio, but there was one quick question there. You are based in Italy, Vlahovic, Juventus. unlikely to leave Juventus in January unless someone pays for him. Wouldn't be a loan option. That's all United can do.
I don't think Juventus would accept a loan. Also because they invested 80 million euros on him. They are in a complicated financial situation, so I don't see them letting him go for less than what they paid, 75, 80 millions. And also he's injured. Vlahovic is dealing with an injury, a muscle injury, and it's almost 2-3 months, and he's still injured. He's not expected to play the next game with Juventus. So I don't think it's a likely deal for January transfer window. For sure, he's always been appreciated by Man United. We know that Ralf Rangnick was a big fan. And so let's see, maybe in the summer the situation could change. But as of now, there are no active negotiations.
Fabrizio, we've whirled through that one. Absolutely fantastic. Really appreciate your time as ever. I know it's busy in January. And thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you as always. Thank you. And again, wish all the best for this year to you and to Manchester United fans. Thank you.
You too. Speak to you in a bit, Fabrizio.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. We will be back with Fabrizio next week. It is the January transfer window, so we've got him on every week now because it's a busy time, but there's lots for us to discuss. If you tuned in a little bit late, I'll go through everything for you. A lot of people in the chat. Make sure you smash a like on the video and do subscribe. It's going to be a very, very big January transfer window, as you know, and lots going on. The first question I actually asked was about the sale, because we had David Ornstein last week. I know for a fact that Fabrizio, David Ornstein, Athletic, everybody wants the scoop on who is going to buy Manchester United. I think we got a very significant update from Fabrizio there, in the sense that he couldn't really tell us when the deal's going to happen. But the requirement of the new owners and the Glazers and everybody is that the new owners are in place to make a big impact on the summer transfer window. And that is why we keep getting mentioned about March. So Fabrizio confirming that again, that the plan is that there is new owners in plenty of time for Manchester United to hit that summer transfer window in a very aggressive way. And he also mentioned with potentially new board members as well. Well, by new board members, I'm hoping new CEO, new director of football. That would be really, really important. So on the new ownership, the aim is still that Manchester United will have new owners to make a big impact on the summer transfer window, which is one of the big things that we are looking for in 2023. But at the moment, obviously, that scoop on who it's going to be, it's still not decided yet at all. Let's go into the transfer news. And I think the big thing that we got from that interview from Fabrizio was the Moukoko story, which we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. And I must admit, in the haze of the festive time of the year, in the new year, in the food and the drink, and actually for me, illness, I'm still not quite right. And if you have been feeling ill over the festive period, I'm with you on that one. It's not been the best, but Moukoko was a player we spoke about. And if you don't know who he is, he's, I think he's 19, 19, went to the World Cup with Germany, scored some goals for Dortmund this season and is out of contract in the summer. Now, I'd always been told from German sources, probably mid-December, that he will sign a new contract with Dortmund before January the 1st, because if he doesn't, on January the 1st, he can speak to United, he can speak to Chelsea, Man City, PSG, not Bayern Munich, because that's in the Bundesliga. So basically, he's in a position right now, yesterday and today and tomorrow, he can speak to any club outside of the Bundesliga completely legitimately about moving to them in the summer. So Fabrizio brought that up completely unaided by me. I didn't ask about Moukoko. He brought it in. We were talking about João Felix, and he said one other option is Moukoko, which is a player that does fit the profile of what Ten Hag wants. Now I'd remind you about Brobbey, who was at Ajax with Ten Hag, went to, was it Leipzig, and then came back to Ajax. United looked at that deal, but he'd already committed to going to Ajax. So that's a hint that Ten Hag is looking for a younger profile striker. Now, the interesting thing about Moukoko is he's free in the summer. He can speak to us now about a move to the summer. But Romano said Barcelona would be interested, but not now. They'd want him in the summer. So if we talk to him about the summer now, Barcelona want him in the summer. What Fabrizio is saying is there's an opportunity for Premier League clubs now to get him, which prompted me to say, well, how much would Dortmund take for Moukoko in January? Fabrizio said 15. I thought he said 50, but he said 15 to 18. Well, that's the fee that João Felix, Atletico Madrid are looking for on a loan. Are we linked to any realistic centre-backs to replace Maguire if he leaves. Heard about Kim Min-jae and Vardiel. Aos, can you remind me about that? I'll come back to that. Kevin Bowyer, thank you. We did speak about Maguire with Fabrizio as well. So I'll come back to that. But let me just finish up on Moukoko. So Moukoko is an interesting one. It's a very interesting one that, you know, I would love this. I would love this type of player to come to Manchester United. I really, really would. Young, loads of talent, loads of development. Under someone like Ten Hag, it would be great. If you give Dortmund, I don't know, 18 million quid, he's only got 5-6 months left on his contract. Yeah, I'd be all over that. I think in many ways it would be better than João Felix or Gakpo. I think it'd be a very, very, very good deal to do. And he hasn't signed a new contract at Dortmund yet. So let's hope Manchester United are factoring that in and are looking at that. But the problem is, again, I know we're very excited about a new owner, but does it not frustrate you that this January transfer window? I mean, look, we've got to be grateful that the Glazers are hopefully going to go. But if only everything was 6 months quicker, because if we had new owners now, imagine what we'd be doing. We'd be in the Enzo Fernandez deal. We'd be able to get Moukoko. We'd be able to get Gakpo. It's just a very opportunist January transfer window of one I've not really seen before, but we don't have the right owners to do anything about it. It's going to be interesting, but Moukoko would be interesting. Swap deal for Donny with the Dortmund striker and still gets Felix. That's what United need to do, but never going to happen, says Sean Turner. So look, that's from Fabrizio Romano. Keep your eye on Moukoko. He's not signed a new contract at Dortmund. He's therefore free to talk to clubs outside of the Bundesliga. And could be an option for a Premier League club. I mean, he'd probably end up going to bloody Liverpool or Arsenal, won't he? But it looks interesting. On João Felix, next round of talks expected later this week, according to Fabrizio. The issue for Arsenal and Manchester United is the issue we spoke about this morning. A 20 million euro package for wages and money to Atletico Madrid is not palatable to Manchester United or to Arsenal. So more talks expected this week. I did ask if there's any preference from João Felix for Arsenal or Manchester United, to which Fabrizio was quite quick to say, no, there's no indication about he wants to go to United over Arsenal or Arsenal over United. He does dream of playing in the Premier League. And, it's about which club can get the deal that suits them in January. Chelsea basically out of the race, PSG not in the race. So at the moment, it looks like it's Arsenal or Manchester United. And we're probably fortunate that I think Arsenal are probably the same as us. It's a lot of money for Arsenal to invest in a player for 6 months. I suppose you could say, both clubs could be looking at Felix and Moukoko. Which is the better deal to get? Let me know in the chat. We spoke about Vlahovic, by the way. Moukoko is going to go to Barcelona, says Lewis. Well, Fabrizio spoke about that, and he will only be going to Barcelona if he waits till the summer. If there's a move in January, then it could be a Premier League club. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, obviously Barcelona is going to be a pull, isn't it? And we, even today, Premier League clubs struggle to compete with Barcelona, which makes me laugh because they're not anywhere near winning the Champions League. They're in a league that's just not the Premier League, but they still have that pull. So maybe that's what will happen. But with João Felix, I think it's going to be. And I mentioned it to Fabrizio as well. I think the frustration with the João Felix thing is if United are just going to wait weeks and weeks until the end of the month and then see what they're going to do. I asked about Memphis. It's an opportunity. Fabrizio admitted that. The Dutch connection, but it sounds like Memphis is sort of he's in the drawer, isn't he? He's in the drawer. He's not in that drawer, but he's in the drawer, sort of like, if we don't get this and we don't get that, we could go for that. And that in itself is terrifying, because that's why I don't want Memphis. He's not a priority. He's not a priority. And he's not a player that we're looking at. How about Immobile or Milinkovic-Savic as Ab? Yeah, we haven't got the money for those, have we? You've got to be realistic. With regards to Memphis, he's quite clearly a player that Manchester United might look at later on in the window if they don't get what they want. And that's why I don't want Memphis. Like, if Ten Hag said when he came to the club in May, I want Memphis, go and get him. But he hasn't done that. It's an option, and it's a down the road option, and that's not going to be good enough. You've got to go and get there are options out there that are really what Ten Hag wants. Gakpo, maybe Moukoko, maybe, João Felix. They're options that are, big options. we don't want to be going, well, I can't get that, I can't get that, I can't afford that, let's get Memphis. It's just not it's not good enough. Mir Aaron says, what about Thuram? I mean, Thuram is an interesting one. I'm not convinced. I mean, I don't mind Thuram. I think it's an interesting option, but again, it feels like a 5th or 6th option, choice option. It's not certainly in our top 3. I think João Felix, whether people like it or not, João Felix is in the top 1 or 2 options for Erik ten Hag without a shadow of a doubt. He inquired about buying him in August. Atletico Madrid wanted over 100 million euros and we couldn't afford it. He now could be available on a loan. He is an A-star option for João Felix, for Ten Hag. But Memphis, Thuram, they are options, but they're not the options. I asked about the midfield situation. I don't know why. Maybe it's clickbait. Who knows? There's been a few things around today about De Jong wanting to join Manchester United. I do find these things ridiculously frustrating. I've been doing this for 7 years now. I know when we do a news show, sometimes it's a slow day and you just go with a story that's not that, you ridicule it. But I mean, I don't know how anybody can run a straight face to saying that De Jong wants to come to Manchester United and write an article or do a video on it. I think it's appalling because there is no source. It's La Ketchup source. It's nonsense. There is nothing credible out there. And that's why it was so well timed that we had Fabrizio on, because I wanted to ask him about it. And he said, there's nothing. There is nothing about De Jong to Manchester United. There is nothing out there. Nothing has changed. Ten Hag would probably like to buy him. Frankie De Jong is actually in a stronger position at Barcelona now than he was in the summer. Barcelona were looking to sell him in the summer. They now see the value of him. He's basically a first teamer. He doesn't want to leave Barcelona. He wants to stay there. So unless he gets kicked out of Barcelona, which they tried to do in the summer, and he still stayed, there is no De Jong to Manchester United story. So look, answers on a postcard as to where that's come from, but it's certainly not anything credible, and it's just a waste of everybody's time. I did ask him about Enzo Fernandez. I think Enzo Fernandez is a player that we would like at Manchester United. But Fabrizio spelt it out quite clearly. Chelsea are very advanced. They've gone very aggressive. They've gone now to make sure they get him. If you want United and Enzo Fernandez in a United shirt, we're 6 months too late, because we can get him in the summer. We'll have the money in the summer, but we haven't got the money now. So it's one of those again, isn't it? It's an opportunist. It's a very good January transfer window if you've got the money. There are some really good opportunities there. We've seen Liverpool get Gakpo. We're going to see Chelsea probably get Enzo Fernandez. There are good deals to be done, but you've got to have the money to do it. And we won't have the money until the summer. So, yeah, it's not looking good on Enzo Fernandez. I did mention the Harry Maguire stuff. I don't know whether you saw, there's a couple of bits to add. In fact, I'm doing the preview for the Bournemouth game. We'll combine it with the 8 o'clock show tonight. But a couple of things from Ten Hag sort of, it's not a press conference. It's just an embargoed bit that came out today that he recorded after the Wolves game. But he spoke about Luke Shaw and, what a good left-sided centre-back he is. And he also spoke about why he played Luke Shaw there. And he mentioned the pace that Wolves have down their right-hand side. And that's why he wanted to play Luke Shaw there. So it was about pace, and it was also about possession. So he wanted Luke Shaw at left centre-back to give them some speed down that left-hand side. But he also wanted him for the possession, for the passing, because you can pass more different angles when you've got a left-footed centre-back over a right-footed centre-back. So, look, of course, Lindelof and Harry Maguire are recovering from a virus, but we've seen it before. Maguire would have played, Lindelof would have played. Under Ollie, he probably would have played them both. So I don't think that Ten Hag didn't pick Maguire or Lindelof because they're recovering from an illness. I think he picked Luke Shaw because Luke Shaw is the closer type of player to Martinez, and it suited the way he wanted to play. So, look, I would say at the moment, Martinez, Varane, Luke Shaw are probably his top 3 centre-back options. So Maguire and Lindelof are fighting it out for 4th choice. And hence, I asked Fabrizio about Maguire's situation in the summer, and I think you could put Lindelof into that equation as well. I just don't think either player, and Fabrizio's right, they're both model professionals who will be focused on trying to win their place back between now and the end of the season. And who knows what could happen, loss of form, injury, they might get back in the team. But I think both those players are going to have to be knocking on Ten Hag's door in April and saying, I want to move in this summer, because unless they're just happy to sit there as a bench player earning money at Man United, which, look, we've seen other people do that in the past. But say what you like about Maguire and Lindelof, they're internationals. They're both hitting 30. If you stay at Man United as fourth choice centre back, you're basically retiring from international duty and first team duty. And I don't think either have the personality to do that. So I do expect Maguire and Lindelof to be moving on in the summer. Certainly one of them. And United's been the market for a new centre back, because I like Ten Hag. I think he likes his squad, but I think he also is realistic to how he wants to play. And I don't think he sees them as that. As Will Smith says, Kim Min-jae, there is a 2-week period in June where Kim Min-jae's release clause is activated at £45 million. Why would you not do that? Why would you not go for that? So there is stuff there. Lucy says, is there any news on Sancho? So there is some positive news on Jadon Sancho. He's back in Manchester and he is back in Carrington. He's been training today. He was photographed entering Carrington in his car. I don't think he's training with the first team. I think he's still doing individual training. But the fact that he's gone from the Netherlands to Manchester to Carrington to training, he can't be far off training with the first team now. So it's been a long time out. I've seen people say this. Name me a player that's been missing from first team training for 2.5 months who's turned it around. But you won't be able to, because it's never happened before. I'm not writing Sancho off. I don't think anyone should. It's a reset. It's like hitting the reset button on your router, isn't it? It's a clean break. It's a clean start. Let's see how it performs now. Let's see how he performs now. There are opportunities. Anthony's not tearing it up. Martial's not tearing it up. There are opportunities at the moment for Jadon Sancho. But I agree. There's no point in him being back early. He's got to come back right and consistent. So good, positive news that he's back. And I think it's the right platform for him to do well. Could be the end of Magaluf if Fernandes comes back from loan and fights for the left-back spot as well, says Caleb. And is Southampton going down? Do you think Ward-Prowse could be worth support for Eriksen's short contract, I think, says SK. Well, that wouldn't be till the summer, wouldn't it? And, ultimately, I wouldn't rule anything out. It's what Ten Hag wants to do. I don't think there's any shock. I mean, the English media might not like it if Maguire goes or, Fred gets moved on or whatever. But for me, it's just a natural progression. I mean, Ten Hag didn't get rid of anyone in the summer, really. I expect 3 or 4 players to go this summer because he'll have had a year and he knows what he wants. So I think we will start to see the evolution of the squad. And it's not just about incomings, it's about outgoings as well. And hopefully some of these players that are surplus to requirements do have the pride that they want to play first team football. I certainly have been in a position like many of you, whether you're playing pub football, Saturday afternoon football, school football, you don't always start. Admittedly, I did. But, if you're a player that's fighting for your place and you don't get your place and then the team's doing well without you, and it's very clear that the manager doesn't fancy you as a first team player unless he's out of options, it's natural that you go, well, look, is there a club I can go to where I can play regularly? And I think, obviously, Maguire and Lindelof aren't shit. I don't think Man City or Arsenal or Liverpool are going to come in and buy them, but I definitely can think of 5 or 6 clubs in the Premier League that would happily come in and sign Harry Maguire or Victor Lindelof, and they'd be playing regular first-team football in the Premier League and probably able to keep hold of their international spots. And I think both players would probably attract very similar Premier League clubs. I think West Ham would love either player. I think Everton would love either player. Maybe a Tottenham. Maybe that might be pushing it, but maybe a Tottenham. But I certainly think anywhere from 7th down, there would be people that would be interested in them. It just depends. It just depends on how much people want. And look, Victor Lindelof's easier to sell because we're not looking to claw back a massive transfer fee. I think in the case of Harry Maguire, we'd do very well to get 40 for him, 29. Yeah, but that's not his fault, and it's not the club. It's not Ten Hag's fault. Andy Oates says, do some of the people on here actually watch United and listen to the news? We cannot afford, or the club will not sign players over 30 million at the moment. Thank you for that, Andy. I would actually lower that down, Andy. I don't actually think we will be going above 15, 20 million. I don't think we have much more than that at the moment. Newcastle could be a good project for Lindelof or Maguire, says Emika. Yeah, look, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But look, very, very comprehensive update on multiple players there. Also, just Wan-Bissaka, Fabrizio saying that Wan-Bissaka is still a player that Man United will move on if they get options in January. I don't think there's a permanent option for Wan-Bissaka in January, but there's certainly a few loan options in January. Dalot's back in training now, as is Martinez. I think McTominay's back. So we don't really have any injuries at the moment. Wan-Bissaka's done reasonably well as an understudy to Dalot, but once Dalot's back, he's back on the bench at best, isn't he? So I think Wan-Bissaka needs to play first-team football, and I think United need to cash in while they can. And cashing in on a loan deal is still cashing in. Moukoko looks better than Felix, potential and cheap, says Abhishek. Yeah, watch this space with that one. United should go for Bella Kotchup if Southampton go down. I would go for Bella Kotchup, Kinshuk. I think he looks very, very good. Very, very good. He'd probably end up going back to the Bundesliga though, won't he? But yeah, I think for me, if I was in charge, if Crystal Palace or West Ham or Wolves wanted Wan-Bissaka on loan in January, I would say to them, is he going to be a starting right back? And if they say yes, I'd let him go. Because then he goes and plays for a Premier League club for 5 months, starting. And then in the summer, if he does well, you say, I want 20 million. And that's completed it, mate. If we can get 20 million for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, we've done as well as we can do. And people will go, well, we cost 50 million. Forget about it. It doesn't matter. It does matter, but it's not for 10. Ten Hag is never going to get 50 million for Wan-Bissaka. We're probably never going to get 30. So it's about getting what we can for Wan-Bissaka. And I think 20 million is achievable if he goes and has a good second half to the season on loan for a Premier League club. But he's not going to be playing for Man United, is he? I hope Sancho will be back playing for at least the Carabao Cup game or the next game, says Neil. Not a chance, mate. Carabao Cup game is in a week. Jadon Sancho's not trained with the first team in 2.5 months. Even if he started training with the first team on Wednesday, because we're playing tomorrow, he will not be starting against Charlton. Never say never, because, you might want to put him on the bench, but I can't see. It would be completely contradictory to what Ten Hag has been doing as the manager. I look at all his signings, I look at all the injuries, and he very rarely throws people in straight away. I think Anthony got thrown in straight away, which did surprise me. But I just don't think he's going to, send a player to the Netherlands, provide him with all the support he needs, and then get him back and throw him straight in the first team. Supporting this club is such a headache, says Angelo. And I want to see him play next week, says Lucy. And who do you think will join Manchester United to FTW? I don't know, because I think it's so easy to be cynical about Manchester United, isn't it? And I'd like to be cynical. I could be cynical and say I think we'll end up with Memphis or Morata, but I'd like to think that we can get João Felix or Moukoko, because I think those two provide. They're not just a short term. They might end up being short term, but they're not just short term. There's a future plan there. If João Felix does well, he could be part of our future. So I hope that we're going to end up with somebody like that. My fear is that we haven't got a bloody clue what we're doing, and we're just sort of treading water. Hoping that later on in the window, there are bargains to be done. But later on in the window is not now, and we need options now. I believe we won't sign anyone because we are notorious for payment plans on new signings. I think with the sale of the club is why we are looking at loans, says Josiah. And, look, I hate to say it, but you're probably quite right. If you are buying the club, you could say to Manchester United, the Glazers, we don't want you to buy anybody in January because you're committing money towards somebody that we might not want. We'd rather you did loans. It might be, as much as the new owners, we might not even be at that point anyway, where new owners can even have a say. But the there's many reasons why United won't spend in January, and all of them are bad reasons in relation to progressing, because the common denominator is that Ten Hag will be the manager in the summer. So if he says, I want a player for 50 million in January, then new owners, current owners should be spending it, because Ten Hag will be here in the summer. But who knows? Ivan Toney, I think with Ivan Toney, it's very difficult to go and get him because of what's going on with the gambling charges, and nobody knows what's going to happen with that. And Brentford would want too much money. We're not going to get him anyway. So no, I don't see anything happen with that. Anyway, look, I'm back at 8 o'clock tonight. It's an 8 o'clock show tonight. I'm going to be previewing the Bournemouth game and talking about all the latest news as well. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner, and smash a like on the video. Thanks everyone who's tuned in. Loads and loads of content for you. 2 games in the next 4 days, Tuesday night and Friday night, and everything that goes on around it. So no Twitch today, Said. I was going to do Twitch, but obviously this Fabrizio thing was bang in the middle of that. I was also going to do a watch-along for Liverpool-Brentford, but I didn't really realise it was 5:30. So I'm out for a meal. So I'll be back doing an 8 o'clock with you good people. So join me live for that at 8 o'clock. Take care, everyone. Smash a like, make sure you subscribe, and I'll speak to you in a bit.